Am I the a-hole for cutting a family member off from a trust fund? 2 years ago, I won a considerable sum in the lottery. Not a scratch-off. The real lottery, to the tune of many millions of dollars. My state does not allow anonymity, and I have many relatives who are less than financially responsible. I knew if I didn't do something, I'd spend the rest of my life being badgered. So I set up a trust for my extended family with a good chunk. How it works is if family has an emergency, they call the trustee and ask for funds, and they assess the need and gives them the money if it meets the terms set in the trust. It's to be used in situations like someone being behind in bills, medical debt, unexpected car repairs, etc. It's to help them get through tough times or major life events, not for vacations or luxury purchases. One of my cousins, let's call him Dale, applied for $75,000 for a brand new loaded pickup truck. He was denied. This was neither an emergency nor was it necessary as he had a perfectly fine vehicle. They offered $5,000 to help with down payment and taxes, and he accepted and bought the truck. This was 6 months ago. Today, the trustee brought to my attention that Dale has never made a payment of his own for the truck. He waits 2 months until he's behind, and then applies for help. The first 2 times they gave him the benefit of the doubt, but now that it's happened a 3rd time, and they're rightfully suspicious. I told them to advise Dale that he can no longer get assistance for his truck payment and to get him some information on how to return it if he cannot afford it, and that we would help, within reason, to get him a much cheaper vehicle that he could afford. Well, this morning his sister Jessie sent me a screenshot of a post he made on Facebook basically bashing me, calling me a selfish prick, and ending with stating he can't wait until I die so he can inherit millions and dance on my grave. Not sure why he thinks that. Most of the money will go to my parents and then the trust, along with a few charities. So I decided to revoke Dale's access to the trust completely, as I don't feel comfortable subsidizing the lifestyle of someone who is actively hoping for my death. Jessie feels bad now for sharing the post and is asking me to reconsider. While Dale is fuming, and my auntie said some choice words leading me to wonder if I'm an a-hole. Dale's father agrees with my decision, but many of our family split. What do you think? Edit. I know it's hard to understand why I even set up the trust to begin with, but I grew up an only child, so I've been extremely close with my cousins and consider their children my nieces/nephews, and them to be the closest thing I've had to brothers and sisters. So I don't want to see them struggle in life if I know I can prevent it without setting myself on fire. But I also am not the most objective person when it comes to them, so I created a trust and appointed a trustee to make the hard level-headed decisions. Dale is the first one to even attempt to take advantage, as the others have only requested funds during the pandemic to help with necessities like mortgage payments and food. And so far, 2 of my nieces were given some money to help with school. The fact that he tried scamming and taking advantage of something meant to help the whole family hurts worse than the Facebook post, honestly. Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. My suggestions? 1. Revoke Dale's access to the trust. If you want to give him a chance to mend his ways, make it for 5 years conditioned on Dale improving as a human being. 2. Tell all the family of your decision. Remind them that it's your money and nobody's entitled to it. That the trust was set up as you care about your family's well-being. But it's not so that any one member abuses it, as it's not fair for all the others. 3. If you want, clarify the information about the will as well, and that the trust will not suddenly see a big infusion of cash upon your death. 4. Finally, let everyone know that the rules apply equally to all, and that anyone who agrees with Dale is equally able to notify the trustee or you not want to access to the trust anymore. P.S. You are very generous and smart in setting up the trust. Keep trusting, pun intended, your instincts. Do the rest of the family not realize that Dale misusing the trust means there's less for them when they really need it? Tell Auntie if Dale takes everything he wants, someday she won't get something she needs. They probably think it's such an unfathomable amount of money that it can never be spent down to zero. And that everybody is why so many lottery winners go broke. Opie has the right idea. Open access would deplete the winnings in no time. Not a-hole. Opie must really love his extended family members or close to them, because if I won the lottery, chilly, my no game is strong. I have no problem telling people no. It'd be cheaper to hire someone to just say no to the family all the time. Not a-hole. It is your money. And while the trust was mainly done to avoid their badgering, It was still a generous act as they never had any right to the money to begin with. You allowed them access for emergencies, and Dale tried to take advantage of it in you, and even then he still would have been allowed to use it if he didn't go on social media and post hate. It's his own fault. Facebook is not private, so he ran the risk of you seeing it. And if he can't understand that action of consequences, he shouldn't have access to your money, especially if he's clearly waiting for you to get said money. The aunt clearly doesn't understand that access to your money is not a given, even if you are family. Dale was acting entitled and broadcasted it to the world. I would have cut him off after finding out he was trying to cheat the system personally. You have no reason to feel bad for not wanting to share with someone so hateful. The only person at fault here is Dale. If he didn't openly wish for your death on Facebook, which was just plain stupid and spiteful, then he would still be able to use the trust for emergencies. Now he has to do what everyone else does and figure it out on his own. Dale wishes for someone's death to take their cash and dance on their grave. Gets cut out of will/trust. Also Dale, shocked pick at your face. Dude got what he deserved being greedy. Him taking cash like that takes cash away from the trust as a whole. The other relatives should be annoyed. To be fair, they're not upset that he was told no about the truck. They do think that was appropriate. It's the removing him as a beneficiary completely that some people think may be too harsh, because it means if he ever does have a legitimate emergency situation, he won't have the same family fund to fall back on. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not leaving some of my gaming consoles behind when I moved out? I, 18 male, moved out of my parents' house 6 weeks ago. We had a bad relationship for the last 3 years, and I couldn't handle living there, so I decided to stay with my best friend's parents. My relationship with my parents started to suffer when I was 12, and they became foster parents. Life changed pretty hard. They started taking in kids with all kinds of complex needs, and it led to them taking a sibling set when I was 13. And I had to give up my bedroom and move into my dad's old office, which was a box, so the boys and girls could have rooms big enough to share. We then moved to a bigger house so they could foster more kids, but I still ended up in the box room. Then we fought about me having a job and not treating my step-siblings now that I had money of my own. From there, we pretty much fought about everything. They told me I was selfish and ungrateful, and I had so much, the least I could do was try to be a good big brother and embrace the fact they wanted to help kids. I just resented ending up in a box room and being expected to spend money on these kids. It felt like being shoved into a tiny room should have been enough sacrifice, but no. What pissed them off was how little I wanted to take part in the day-to-day stuff, like therapies, doctor's appointments, taking them to and from school, etc. Once my parents moved into the bigger house, money was super tight and they are still struggling with that now. When I moved out, I took my video game consoles, the ones I paid for. There's my PS1, PS2, PS5, Switch, and a GameCube, and my parents were pissed. They asked me to leave some of the stuff there for their foster kids, but I said no. That I had bought them and I wanted to keep them. They called me selfish again, and said the kids deserved more of those happy things with hard lives they've had. So I told them they should buy them for them then, but I'm keeping my property. They called me an a-hole and told me they were ashamed of my attitude. Am I the a-hole? Not an a-hole. They want you to parent kids that are not even theirs. Just foster. It's great that they're helping those kids, but they sacrificed their own child to help others. They shouldn't take on more than they can handle financially. I honestly don't think people should be allowed to foster if they have underage children of their own. I don't think there's anything wrong with it if they do it correctly. There are many families that take good care of their kids and foster kids. Not an a-hole. It's your property and you can do whatever you want with it. On a more serious note, please consider counseling to deal with how your parents treated you. It sounds like you have some understandable anger. Don't let it poison the rest of your life. This. I let hate consume me when I was younger from issues that happened when I was a child, and it ate me away until someone finally convinced me to seek help. Not an a-hole. Sorry about this decision by your parents. A broken system allows family to overstretch their limits due to the huge need for foster care. What led your parents to suddenly take in so many kids all at once? Fostering is a family decision, with specific counseling for the natural-born or previously adopted children. It helps avoid the feelings you have, which are often present even if you get to keep your room, let alone get shoved entirely to the side. Good luck building up your life going forward. They had always wanted more kids, but my mom couldn't have more after me. I think they thought me being older would make it easier, because there would be less jealousy / less need to be so hands-on with me. Like I could feed myself, get myself up, dressed, shower, homework, all that stuff. So they had time for foster kids therapies. Next story. Am I the a-hole for insisting I get the phone back despite policy? My kids attend a year-round school and started backup for the new term 2 weeks ago. My eldest, 16 female, ended up getting her phone confiscated for using it during class to watch TikTok. We had discussed this before she even got the phone, then had some issues last year. As a last resort, I told her if that happened again, the phone would become mine, and she'd get an old flip phone that was my husband's, with no internet until she could prove trust. The school policies had changed this term from a phone would be confiscated until a parent could come get it, to a phone would be kept for 2 weeks as a first offense, 3 for second, so on and so forth. I wasn't okay with this, as I don't trust the school to not lose it. I know they've lost / broken other students' phones. Plus, I don't want them having access to my daughter's private information. I went to the school and requested it back, saying I wouldn't give it to my daughter, but I paid for it. Secretary gave me this bill, and I didn't blame her, but asked to speak with the vice principal. He comes out and repeats them. I said, okay, but I'm the parent. I paid for it, and I never signed anything giving you permission to hold it. They were refusing, so I said I'd sit in the office until it was given back. I did so, and waited for close to 2 hours. Finally, the principal came out and said I needed to leave. I said if I left, I'd be back with a police escort. At that point, the phone was returned to me. My husband says I Karen'd my way out of it. But to me, it's not their property to take. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. The school's policy is stupid. Your daughter was in the wrong. But many high school students need their cell phones for communication, like younger siblings, jobs, and medical appointments. Some kids stay home alone in houses with no landlines or drive, making having a phone a safety issue. While the school is within their rights to discipline your kid during school hours, they need to get their head out of their A and realize that there are bigger issues at play. Edit. Even stronger not the a-hole in light of the fact that the school lost or broke phones. I hope they're paying the parents $800 every time that happened. I'm pretty sure it's illegal to keep someone else's property, especially for weeks. Not the a-hole. Since when can schools just take private property with confidential information on it for weeks at a time? Especially knowing how often things get lost when they are confiscated. How often do you see articles of teachers / principals confiscating electronics and then selling them on eBay? I've definitely seen those stories. No thanks. They were definitely hoping you'd just get bored and leave. They have no grounds for keeping things like this. I knew it when you threatened to get the police involved. I've read at least one news story of someone who worked at a school stealing / spreading nudes off a student's phone. No, kids shouldn't have those, but teenagers are gonna be teenagers. And I was sharing underwear and swimsuit pictures to friends / boys when I was 16. That's a case where they were caught and punished for it. Edited to add, a phone does not necessarily need to be unlocked to access photos if an ill-meaning staff member has a charger cord to hook it up to the computer, and they know how to browse to the computer's file explorer as if the phone were a connected flash drive. Teacher here. Not the a-hole. What kind of whack job school is this? It is well understood in all the schools I have worked for that parents and teachers are a team working toward the same goal, the best interests of the child. Therefore, not only is the school's relationship with parents incredibly important, but parents should be looped in and consulted regarding both educational and disciplinary decisions whenever possible. You came in acknowledging that you agree that a phone should be confiscated, and ready to back that up at home by swapping your child's phone for a flip phone. So there should have been zero issue handing the phone back to you. I can't believe they choose this hill to die on. Just give the damn phone back. My God. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not getting a tattoo with my sisters and inheriting our grandma's money? My grandma is super against tattoos, as she says they don't look good on women. My 2 brothers have tattoos though, and that's fine with her. When she found out my oldest sister, there's 4 of us, had a tattoo, we still don't know who snitched, she took my sister out of her will. So my other sisters and I made plans for the three of us to get tattoos in solidarity with our sister. I said I was going to do it, but then I realized how dumb that was and decided not to do it. They went through with it though, and they were mad at me when they found out I didn't do it. My grandma took them off her will, and when she died, my two brothers and I inherited all her money and estates. My brothers and I gave our sisters a little bit of it, but they want us to split it equally. My sisters have been pressuring me specially, because I had said I was going to do that tattoo plan with them and didn't do it. Am I the a-hole for not getting that tattoo with them? Also, would I be the a-hole if I don't split the inheritance equally with them? I already gave them some, but they want more. You're the a-hole. You were right about it being a stupid reason to do it. Especially if it meant your brothers got all the money. And your grandma's ridiculous. But they were mad at you when they found out you didn't do it? So you promised. They went and got it done, and you didn't. No, hey, I thought about it and I really don't want a tattoo. Maybe we could find some agreement to share some of the money with sister. You knew they'd be disinherited, and you'd get significantly more money. You shouldn't be guilted or coerced into getting a tattoo that you aren't 100% sure about. But this was about the money to you. If it weren't, you could have just told your grandma to disinherit you. Dude, it doesn't sound or appear to the outside that you changed your mind and forgot to tell them. It sounds like you talked them into getting a tattoo with malicious Machiavellian intent. You're the a-hole. You took advantage of your grandma's views on women to steal inheritance from your siblings. It seems like OP planned this, and it is almost funny how she's behaving innocent. Everyone sucks here. Your grandma sucks, you suck, and your family sucks. The only fair thing to do is split it equally between everyone. If you chose to keep it, go for it. But is the money more important than your family? If so, you'd be the biggest a-hole of all. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister to stop acting as if my fiancé were her son's dad? My 24 female sister, 23 female, had my nephew Joe during her first year in college. The father is absent in his life and only pays child support. She has always hated the idea of my nephew growing without a father figure, and since our only brother is 17 and our dad passed away 10 years ago, she dated recklessly for a while and introduced him to a bunch of dudes. 3 years ago, I met my now fiancé, Gabriel, 28 male. He's really sweet and adores my family. He's financially stable and is good with kids. Has a bunch of nephews on his own and comes from a good, big family. We've decided to be child-free, and if something happens to my sister and a few of Gabe's siblings, we're meant to be their legal guardians. But for the past year, my sister has grown comfortable with pushing Joe around Gabe. She always invites him to my nephew's activities, which is fine, but she acts as if Gabe were her guest and I'm his +1, not otherwise. Plus, my brother used to be the one who got invited and he's not anymore. She asks Gabe to drive her and Joe to places, and my mom pointed out how they look like a family when he does it. She jokes about how much of a dad Gabriel is for Joe, and she had the audacity to ask him once if he was comfortable with adopting Joe, but she was drunk, so I'll give her that. Neither Gabe or I are comfortable with this. He doesn't know how to push it aside without hurting their feelings. Mom has told my sister countless times how this is inappropriate, but my sister always gets defensive and says that Joe chose him and it's not her fault. Things blew up last weekend when Joe asked Gabriel if he could call him dad, because Mom said it was fine. My sister was looking at them with the biggest smile on her face, and I could notice how my mom and my brother were expecting his answer. Neither of them agree with it too. He sat Joe on his knee and kindly explained him how he wasn't his dad or even a dad figure, that he was Anne's soon-to-be husband, and that made him his favorite uncle. That even if he wasn't his dad, he would never leave him and they'll always be best friends. Joe, being the sweet kid he is, laughed and smiled and said that it was okay. Then he ran to the living room to play with something. I think the situation resolved itself just fine, but my sister didn't like it and started to fight with us. My mom kept telling her to shut up, but she was saying things like, "What's wrong with you two? How can you say no to a little kid? He sees you as a father, so you should be proud of that."
I had enough. But I told her that Gabriel wasn't Joe's dad, and that she needed to stop acting as if he was because it was honestly embarrassing. She called me a selfish C-word and said that I was jealous of her kid. I just rolled my eyes and we decided to leave after her. She later sent me a text saying that it was best if we step out of Joe's life for a while, or we will end up confusing him because he doesn't understand that Gabriel is not daddy. But as far as I could see, he got it pretty well. Edited to Ed. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that we're already Joe's legal guardians, but if something happens to my sister, and we hope it never does, we'll be taking care of him. Also, my sister is not right. I agree with that, but I doubt she ever gets violent. Now for the top comments. Not today, Hall, but you know your sister wants your fiancé, right? This right here. Sister is absolutely going to try to get fiancé to dump OP, if she hasn't already. As far as I know, she has never tried something like that. Neither my mom, Gabe, or I think that my sister might be emotionally interested in my fiancé. She only wants him as my nephew's father, but I don't think she's in love with him or something like that. I find it hard to believe she'd be pushing the dad angle without having any romantic interest in him. In any case, she could probably use some therapy to help with whatever issue she's dealing with. A normal person doesn't see their sister's fiancé as a viable father for their kid. Not today, home. Watch your sister. She is fantasizing about your boyfriend, and you aren't part of that fantasy. She's creating her own little family. Yikes. Poor Gabe. Also, poor Joe. The kid seems like a good one, but his mom will keep dragging him into these self-made miserable situations and keep pushing him towards emotional pain and turmoil. Not stay hollow P, but keep a discreet eye out for Joe. He's really an awesome kid, always laughing and playing. As hard as it may seem, my sister is a hell of a mother too. She takes excellent care for Joe. It's just the father issue that set her off. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law that she will never see my child? Not really my mother-in-law, but girlfriend's mom. My girlfriend Ella and I have been together for almost 4 years now, and we are expecting our first child later on this year. Ella's 5 months pregnant. As much as I love Ella, I cannot stand her family, especially her mother. From the stories I've heard and from my own experiences with her, her mother seems to be an extremely disrespectful person. Because of her attitude, Ella has significantly cut contact with most of her family. We also didn't really tell them that we were pregnant, but they found out through Ella's cousin. Upon hearing about Ella's pregnancy, Ella's mom has been pestering us about inviting us to dinner to congratulate and celebrate our growing family. It's a nice gesture, but I was hesitant to accept because of the way that she and the rest of Ella's family usually act. After almost a month of ignoring the invitation, Ella convinced me to take her up on it. The dinner was held at a very expensive, very fancy fine dining restaurant. At first, to my shock, the dinner was going well. Ella's mom apologized for her past behavior and stated that she wanted to be a good grandmother moving forward. Her sister also offered support in the form of babysitting, old baby clothes, etc. The conversation was friendly, and I was very surprised to not hear anything insulting from Ella's mom directed at Ella. When Ella stepped out to use the washroom, Ella's sister made a comment about her supposed weight gain and offered me diet plans and exercise regimen to prevent her from getting too chunky. Her mom also pitched in about Ella's greedy eating habits. Just to be clear, my girlfriend isn't big. She's very tall and lanky, and even if she was the biggest woman in the universe, their comments would still be unacceptable. Ella's mom and sister also asked me not to tell Ella about our conversation because she's apparently too sensitive. At this point, I wanted to leave. Once Ella came back, I announced that I wanted to leave the dinner early. Her family was surprised and asked me why, and I responded that I didn't see them fit to see my child and I wouldn't want to see them ever again. I was probably very impolite, but in that moment, I didn't care. Her mom was very upset, almost yelling in the restaurant about how I couldn't leave without paying their bill, as I was the man of the table, and how I couldn't make husband demands as a boyfriend. Meaning, I can't forbid a grandmother from seeing her child because I'm not a true family. Again, I didn't care and I left with Ella. I later found out that Ella's mom's card was declined and they were forced to phone a friend to bring some money. Very embarrassing. Ella thinks that I could have been less harsh, because now her sister is spreading rumors about her to the family. Not stay home. So wait, Ella's family invited you to a swanky dinner, expected you to cover everyone's tab, and had zero backup plan for if you declined? Never mind the insulting Ella behind her back drama. That alone makes them the a-holes. Continue to ignore them and focus on getting Ella on the same page with you about what role they're going to be allowed to have in the kid's life, and how to draw boundaries, because it doesn't sound like she fully realizes how messed up this all is yet. I think the saddest part about this whole situation is that Ella didn't really react after I told her what they had said about her. Her reaction was more like, oh, they're doing this again, as if she's heard it a million times before. All this to say, I think deep down she understands how messed up the situation all is. I think she just has hope that they would change. She's desensitized to it because she's used to this. I mean, this is the nicest way. Your girlfriend needs therapy. It's going to help her understand everything a lot more if she gets an unbiased professional opinion. Because the way her family acts is disgusting and not normal, and she needs to know that. I'm glad you had her back. Good on you, OP. She's already in therapy, and she's working on herself, don't worry. Not stay home. So she invites you to dinner and then expects you to pay. That's rich. Sounds like Karma also joined that dinner party. Not even just a normal dinner. It was a proper, posh restaurant. Did I read at least right that you paid for yourself and Ella? Partly courtesy, but also because I would not want to owe someone like these people a new dime. I did not pay for anyone's meal. I actually just left, which was probably a really horrible thing to do, but I was so mad at that point. Not stay home. They were just being nice to her face in order to get access to the baby. They only messed it up by being snide in front of you when she had gone to the bathroom, showing they hadn't changed in the slightest. I wouldn't be surprised if mother-in-law knew her card would decline and was counting on you to cover the bill too. Maybe you could have handled it a little better, but I don't blame you one iota for what you did. Cut them off and leave them cut off. You can't really control what they say about Ella. Anyone with half an ounce of sense will realize it's all BS though. Congratulations on your upcoming arrival, and good luck. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay my brother-in-law for babysitting my daughter? I, 34 male, have a 5-year-old daughter. My wife is deceased and my in-laws are my only supporters. Some days ago, I had an appointment with a dentist, and the babysitter who was supposed to watch my daughter called and canceled. I didn't know what to do, so I called my brother-in-law asking if he was willing to watch his niece till I get back from the appointment. He said he wasn't sure since he had a couple of tutoring sessions to get done. I told him to skip and I dropped my daughter off at his apartment then left. When I came back to pick her up in the evening, brother-in-law asked me to pay him for watching my daughter for 4 hours. I was taken aback and asked if he was serious. He reminded me that he had 2 tutoring sessions that he had to cancel last minute. And since I pushed him to stay with my daughter and watch her, then I need to pay him. I refused and said he was being somewhat greedy and an opportunist to even think sitting his niece would grant him easy money. He said it wasn't easy money, but time wasted in his very busy schedule. We had an argument, and I left with my daughter. He called my in-laws who said that he was in the right, and I should have paid him for his time and be appreciative of his efforts. I told them I didn't expect him to ask for money, but they said it's what I do with babysitters. Well, yes, but he's family, and last thing I expect from him is to ask for money for staying with his niece. Besides that, I had an emergency and couldn't miss the appointment knowing how hard it is to get another one. He's still insisting on being paid, and I keep refusing. At this rate, I think he's being ridiculous, but I don't know. It all seems to be a misunderstanding. Say I did pay him. This would set the precedence for him to keep expecting money every time. Am I the a-hole for not paying him? Now for the comments. I forced my brother-in-law to cancel 2 tutoring sessions, losing him money to make him watch my child. Then, instead of offering to cover the money lost, I refused because family equals free labor. Even when you inconvenience them. Fixed it for you. You're the a-hole. If I were him, I'd never sit for you again. You forgot to add my babysitter who I was going to pay canceled. Opie, you're the a-hole in a way you will regret. Now, your brother-in-law won't be available as a backup in emergencies in the future, and you will be out of luck. I hope he's in for a real surprise when he tries randomly dropping the kid off again, and brother-in-law calls CPS for an abandoned child. You're the a-hole. He said he couldn't watch her. You dumped her on him anyway. He had to cancel paid work. He is not trying to profit from you. He is trying to recoup his losses. Accusing the brother-in-law of being greedy and opportunist, when this man is out here trying to force other people to miss out on work and provide him free labor. Yikes. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. You lost me when he told you he had to tutor and you told him to skip that. Like what? Now, I never charged for babysitting my family, but I also would not have tolerated someone telling me to change my plans last minute to accommodate their emergency. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for saying I told you so when my wife got banned from seeing our grandson? My wife has been in constant contact with our daughter-in-law, our son's wife, about plenty of things. The very recent argument ensued after my wife kept insisting on being present in the delivery room despite getting a resounding no. My wife was having none of it, and my son and his wife changed hospitals to throw my wife off after she threatened to barge into the room. She eventually found out I didn't tell her and got very mad. I told her to stop and think, because if she keeps this up, she will lose all chances to see her grandbaby. She told me off and went to make a huge scene at a hospital my daughter-in-law was at. It did not end well, and my wife came home crying hysterically after getting chewed out by our son and kicked out of the hospital. Things remained tense till my son called to invite me to see the baby for the first time. He did not invite my wife, which sent her into a mental breakdown. I had an argument with her after she tried to guilt me into staying with her and shame my son for keeping his mom away from her grandbaby. But I just told her I told you so, and said that she had plenty of opportunities to get right with our daughter-in-law, but she blew them away because of her stubbornness. She started yelling about how unsupportive and cruel I was, just like our son to be siding against her instead of defending her, and staying home with her when our son banned her from meeting our grandbaby. I went anyway, and she kept arguing about me taking the wrong side instead of defending her. I feel bad for her, but at the same time, I think that she was being irrational and made this a competition, despite knowing how our son and his wife felt about her behavior. Not stay home. I'd consider a divorce over this, to be perfectly honest. I mean, honestly, she has effectively ruined all future holidays. What the hell? Your wife is being so irrational here, I'm a little worried for her. Is she this way about other things, or is this new behavior for her? You might want to see a medical professional with her, not stay home. I was also wondering the same thing. This is off the charts crazy. Not stay home. There's been similar posts like this in AITA and Just No Mother-in-Law, and I'm so interested to know, cause it's never from the husband/father-in-law's perspective. Why on earth do you stay with this woman? Seriously, this can't be an isolated component of her personality, because this behavior is a pattern and an extreme one at that. So please, I gotta know, why are you remaining married to such a selfish jerk? Money, most likely. The older we get, the more difficult it is to divorce. Unless you've saved enough money for both parties to go separate ways, it can cause a financial blow to split your 401k and any other retirement savings in half. Sometimes it's easier to live with a certain amount of crazy, provided it isn't abusive, than to lose one's financial stability at an age where you don't have enough time to rebuild. Not stay home. I actually want to say thank you, because there are many husbands who would have thought that having their wives back meant going along with her bat-ass crazy, and you are an example of how that simply isn't the case. Your wife is abusive to your daughter-in-law, and you refuse to play a part in that, so thank you. You raised your son well, because he had his wife's back when she was in a vulnerable position, and you had your wife's back by telling her she was being an a-hole when she needed to hear it, even though it didn't make a difference. Bravo, OP! Am I the a-hole for telling my mom to adopt instead of planning to use me as a surrogate? So the title sounds exactly the way it is. I recently turned 16, but my mom was talking to me about this starting when I was 14. A little backstory. My mom was previously in a bad relationship with my birth father, and after having 4 kids including me, she was forced to get her tubes tied. That was forever ago, and now she's married to my stepfather. My mom is all about kids, and she always talks about wanting more. So when I was 14, I was in a car with her when she brought up surrogacy. I had no idea what that meant at the time, so she explained it to me. She talked on and on about how she hopes that one of my sisters or I would give birth to a kid and give it to her one day. I didn't think much of it at the time. This has been going on for the past 2 years. Flash forward to today. I was in a car with my mom, and we were driving home from the store. We were listening to music when she turned it down and started talking about the surrogacy thing again. This time, it was slightly different. She started talking about how she wants me specifically to give birth to a baby and give it to her. She point blank asked me if I would do it despite numerous conversations that I have had with her talking about how I never want kids or to give birth. I was in total shock. I literally just turned 16 back in June. I didn't speak for a second, but I answered back and told her that I would probably need a few years to think about it, and that instead of going through all the trouble of getting a brand new baby, she should look into adopting because there's a ton of kids who needs a family. She instantly got mad at me and started talking about how she doesn't want to do that because she doesn't want to have to deal with the kids not accepting her as their mother. I told her that that wouldn't matter if she tried her best to be a good mother to them. She started yelling about how I was a jerk and about how she had raised me to deserve something back. At this time, we were in our driveway, so I got out of the car and went into my room. She hasn't said anything to me ever since it happened this morning. I am unsure whether or not I am the a-hole, so I have come to Reddit. So, am I the a-hole for telling my mom to adopt? Edit. I did not expect this to get this much attention already. Just to clarify, I am not the oldest sister. I'm actually the youngest. My older sisters are 17 and 18. And no, I have no family that I could stay with. My birth dad's side of the family are terrible people, and all live in Texas, my birth state, and I currently live in another state. My mom's side of the family lives in Idaho. Now for the top comments. This is horror movie crap. No normal mother talks like this. Get out of this household ASAP. Edited to add. Can't believe I forgot to add this. Call CPS. Opie, this is not normal. Not at all. Call CPS and leave when you turn 18. This is not normal. This in a nutshell. This mom has some kind of emotional or psychological issue. The children need to be removed from her care and placed with someone who isn't going to try to make them carry a pregnancy for them. Not day-hole. And oh my god, this is so messed up. You cannot be her surrogate. You cannot be a surrogate for your first pregnancy anyways. You're way too young. Jesus Christ. Rereading this, and she doesn't even want to be a surrogate. She just wants you to literally give her a child. Get out of there, girl. She's crazy, and there's no telling what she's going to do. Exactly. Sleep with the door locked, and maybe tell a counselor. Holy crap. Get a job, get your own bank account, save up, and leave the moment you turn 18. I'd call CPS now. I second both of these. What the actual hell? Not day-hole. Asking a teenager to be a surrogate is sick. Asking your 16-year-old daughter to be a surrogate for yourself is freaking insane. And she first brought up the subject when Opie was 14. I mean, holy crap, this is terrible. Opie, please listen to what people are saying about calling CPS. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for making my mom look bad? My female 16 mom has this belief that she should only pay for the essentials. Food, water, shelter, the cheapest phones she could get her hands on, and just enough clothes so we don't freeze or walk around naked. And we're on our own for everything else. We also don't get an allowance. And in my neighborhood, it's nearly impossible to get a job before you're 16. When I was in 6th grade, my teacher had the system where he'd give us 1 minute after the bell rang to unpack. Once all of us were in our seats, he'd stop the timer and write the remaining time left on the board. Once it added up to an hour, we'd get a pizza party. The cost of the pizza parties was $2 for pizza and $6 for a smoothie or milkshake. I didn't have money, and my mom wouldn't give me money, so I was the only person without a smoothie or milkshake at these parties. The teacher usually felt bad for me and gave me pizza anyway. It was kind of humiliating, sitting there and watching the teacher pass out everyone's orders, and being the only person without any food or getting the leftover slice of pizza. In March, when all the schools and daycares shut down and people were desperate for a nanny, I started working 12+ hours a day, 7 days a week, and made pretty good money. I still babysat 4 days a week during the school year, and I'm working 6 days a week now, so I have a pretty good amount of money coming in. So I can do things with my class and leave when I'm 18. My sister, female 11, is going to 6th grade and will have the same teacher. So at the beginning of the year, I told her to let me know when they have pizza parties and I'll pay for it. We were staying with my grandparents when she got her schedule. And when I told her and my grandma asked what I meant and why would I pay for her pizza parties, I told her that our mom refuses to pay for anything for us that isn't deemed essential. Also, I told her about how I was the only kid in the class without a milkshake and stuck with a leftover slice of pizza if I even got any. My mom and my grandparents have been fighting since, and it's kind of my fault. So I wanted to know if I was the a-hole. Edit. I saw a lot of comments on this, so I wanted to put it in an edit. My mom can't afford to give us more than the bare minimum. She goes out to eat multiple times a week and goes on weekend trips at least once every other month. And about my dad, he died when I was 6, so he can't really help. Not the a-hole. They ask, and you explained. If your mother knew it would make her look awful, she shouldn't have done it. You didn't make your mom look bad, OP. Your mom did that all by herself. You're being a good big sister, and stay out of it if your grandparents, hopefully, put her in her place. Not the a-hole. True. OP could have easily thought, it's a growing experience I had to go through, but a totally useless and embarrassing one to have to learn as a child. Good on her for already being a better role model than her own mother. Not the a-hole. If your mother was embarrassed by her actions, then she should not have acted that way. She is ashamed of herself and is trying to defend her actions to her mother. It has nothing to do with you. This. If you can't defend an action which more than one person knows of, as Ben Franklin said, 3 can keep a secret if 2 of them are dead, then she damn well shouldn't have pulled that move. She made herself look bad. Not the a-hole. If anything, you're a goddamn saint. All you did was tell the truth and spare your sister the pain you felt. Agreed. OP, how is this your fault? Did you choose to be the only kid without food? Did you even choose to work almost full-time hours while still a teenager? Or was that something you had to do because of the choices of others? None of this is your fault. Those are just the consequences of your mother's actions coming home to roost. Not the a-hole. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for cutting my father's family out of my life? Background. My father passed away when I was 8 years old. My mother decided to honor his wish by staying close to his family. My grandmother assisted in raising me, and while she emotionally and physically mistreated me, I still care about her. My father had 2 brothers, Tom older and Derek younger. I used to be closer to Tom, but Derek always treated me like I was a little sister trying to get his mommy's attention. He's always been a mama's boy and tries to solve all his problems with his fists. Now for the story. I moved away in 2015 after living and taking care of my grandmother. She did not want to move to Texas, so she moved to Washington to be around Tom for a while. Derek remained in Missouri, and my mother came with me. I remained close with my grandmother. I would call her when I was walking home from work, and we would spend a lot of time talking. Our relationship was better now that we were living apart. Tom and Derek would both yell at me about talking to her, but she would get upset if I didn't call her. She would insist that I keep open talks with my uncles. I was always polite, but I never felt comfortable around them due to things that had happened in the past. Fast forward to 2020, and we lost my grandmother to the virus in Easter. Near the end, Tom called me and said I was not to call the hospital for updates, as he would text me an update. This update consisted of a group text to Derek, myself, and several cousins. When she passed, he called and said he'd update me. I waited for when the funeral would be, or if we would do like a phone call. My grandmother was United Pentecostal, highly against cremation due to thinking she'd not get raptured someday. Tom texted the group and said that he cremated her. I texted back and asked what he was thinking. He had her will in his hand. All expenses had been paid already. I had a copy of her will. He said they wouldn't let him bury her, that he had to cremate her due to the virus. I called him on this BS and pointed out that they did not say anything about having to have a cremation. He told me if I didn't shut up, I wouldn't get my inheritance, and that it will all go to him and Derek. I held my tongue. He said to text me when they were going to bury her ashes at the end of summer. I waited. I messaged him around the end of August, and he said they weren't going to do it until spring, blaming the virus again. Okay. In October, I get a text with pictures of him, Derek, and a few other family members burying her ashes. No one called or texted me that this was happening. I was very hurt. I mean, they could have at least called me on the phone and said, "Hey, we're going to bury Grandma. If you can't come, we can at least call and let you listen to the funeral." I'm just done with these toxic people in my life. But my mother's telling me I'm being an a-hole by not trying to keep in contact with them and keeping my grandmother's wishes of talking to them. I don't think I am, but am I? Now for the comments. Not a-hole. Sometimes you have to just remove yourself from a toxic situation. No one deserves to be treated like that. Not a-hole. I don't know, but maybe you should talk to a lawyer just in case. I don't know if it's illegal, but if it's in the will she wanted to not be cremated, I think maybe you should talk to a lawyer. Also, if they wanted to withhold inheritance from you, you should talk to a lawyer. I'd try to get evidence on them for that stuff. Also, with your mom saying to hold your grandma's wishes and to talk to them, they didn't hold her wishes to not be cremated. So I don't think she should be mad at you for anything when they did something as awful as that to her. Not a-hole. And I'm sorry you lost your grandma to COVID. Not being notified about a funeral would definitely be the end of the relationship for me. I'm sorry they did that to you. My opinion? They chose to cut contact, not you. You stayed in contact while your grandma was here, which was her wish. Not telling you about funeral plans was childish and petty. They knew what they were doing. I also don't think they can make changes to your grandma's will because they want to. Make sure you check into that and get the inheritance that's rightfully yours, if your grandma included you in her will. Not a-hole. Threatening to withhold inheritance is enough to cut them out, in my opinion. Don't jump through the hoops that people who treat you poorly enjoy setting. Anyone who says otherwise either loves setting the hoops or is conditioned to enable such poor behavior. Not a-hole. Controlling the flow of information to you, to which you are morally entitled to, is an act of mistreatment. It was done to me. My bio father ended himself, and no one was going to tell me. My 90-year-old grandfather demanded someone drive him to tell me a week later. And now when my grandparents die, no one will tell me. I have made my peace with it. However, like you, I realize these people add nothing to my life except their toxicity and control issues. Feel free to remove any feelings of guilt, as you have nothing for which to be guilty or ashamed. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not consoling my sister after her baby was taken by CPS? My sister, female 19, had her 2-month-old daughter taken after my sister tested positive for hardcore substances. My niece was found malnourished and had not even reached her birth weight yet, which was a little over 6 pounds. My sister and her boyfriend, male 24, also sold products to other people out of the house. My mom, female 49, went over when CPS said that they needed someone else over to watch the baby while they were waiting for the test to come back. My mom watched as the boyfriend would constantly leave the house and come back higher than the time before. My mom also found some white powder in the bag in the bathroom that she flushed, and when the boyfriend found out, he flipped and screamed at her and told her, "Do you know how much that was worth?" My mom eventually left later that night because she watched them smoke right beside the baby, and they defended it, saying that the window was open. My mom called CPS and explained everything she witnessed, but CPS basically said that until the results of the test came back, that they weren't going to do anything. They took my niece a week later. Now, usually I stick up for my sister, but this time was too far, with the fact that a defenseless child was involved, and sent her a not-so-nice text about how disappointed I was in her, and then blocked her. I've gotten a lot of angry texts and have been ghosted by another sibling because I wasn't being supportive, and in their words, she needs us more than ever right now. It's been a couple months and I don't know much about the situation at all since I blocked her. Other info that may help. My sister constantly lied about not having money. so family would send her some, in which she would promptly spend on scores. She shoplifted on a constant basis. She claimed that my niece started sleeping through the night by a week old, and when she received a little concerned backlash, she claimed that her doctor said it was fine. My mom mentioned that the baby was extremely sleepy and that she spent most of the time in the crib sleeping. CPS did test the baby for substances too. However, we don't know the outcome of that. My sister told my mom she had just recently tried certain stuffs, and that is why she won't come back clean, but didn't like it, so she wasn't actually doing anything at the time. My mom said that my sister was on substances the entire time she was there, and couldn't walk straight, which scared my mom, especially when she was holding the baby. Explanation on why maybe the a-hole here because my siblings are very upset with me, and that I could have been more supportive considering she just lost her child, and she needs some support to get clean herself so she gets her daughter back. Not the a-hole. Honestly, I'd have called CPS myself. Apparently, people who were going over to buy from them were actually making reports, because even they were concerned for the baby. They had a ton of reports by the time they actually decided to take any action on it. Not the a-hole. Addicts are often manipulative, and anyone close to them will get played. Keep your distance until she's clean and legitimately making amends. I definitely plan to. Thank you. Screw that. Not the a-hole. I can't say what I'd do to any family member that did that to a baby because I'd be banned from Reddit. Your sister is a vile human being. Exactly how I felt. Couldn't imagine she did what she did and was livid. However, my family has a rather awful history. I and all 6 of my siblings were in foster care at some point in our lives, so if that explains my family's dynamics a bit, I hope so.